Much has been written about Japan's Sengoku period, also known as the Sengoku Jidai, but none of these accounts has sparked controversy to date as that of Yasuke, a black African man in the service of Oda Nobunaga, one of the three shoguns known as the unifiers of Japan. All agree that he did in fact exist, and that he arrived in Japan in 1597 accompanying Jesuit missionary Alessandro Valignano. It is also agreed that Oda Nobunaga took an interest in him. The point of departure, however, is the role that Yasuke played in the retinue of Oda Nobunaga, with some arguing that he rose through the ranks to become a samurai, while others arguing that he was only a retainer, perhaps an arm bearer. Today, we recount the life of Yasuke, one of the few men to survive the Honno-ji incident. Little is known about Yasuke's life before his arrival in Japan. It is speculated that he was from either Ethiopia, Mozambique, or Southern Sudan. Proponents claim that Valignano plucked him as a young boy from his family to act as his servant or helpers. Others, on their part, claim that he was likely a mercenary used by Valignano as a bodyguard. It is agreed that he arrived in Japan in 1579, traveling to Kyoto in 1581, where he got the attention of the feudal lord Oda Nobunaga. Oda Nobunaga was the daimyo of the Oda clan during the Sengoku period. The Sengoku was a tumultuous period spanning over 100 years, where the different clans of Japan warred over territory and influence. Each region was inhabited by a clan, which was in turn ruled by a daimyo, who was a feudal lord. After his ascent to power, Nobunaga launched a sort of blitzkrieg with the hope of unifying Japan. Of course, other lords who stood to lose their power and influence did not take kindly to this. It was during this time that Yasuke arrived in Japan. Proponents are divided as to whether he was a simple retainer or servant, or whether he was actually granted the honor of being a samurai. Samurai were part of the minor nobility in feudal Japan, and to be a samurai, one would be required to train for decades, more often than not since childhood. In addition, there are no known records confirming that Yasuke was officially bestowed this honor, as opposed to records of foreigners, including William Adams, who was a white man bestowed with the honor of being recognized as a samurai. This has lent credence to the account that he was an arm bearer, accompanying the daimyo in his conquest of Japan, but not actually participating in the battle. Whatever it may be, we know that when Oda Nobunaga was betrayed by his close ally Mitsuhide, Yasuke was one of the few survivors. Mitsuhide had ambushed Nobunaga during what would be known as the Honno-ji incident, falling upon him with over 10,000 men against Nobunaga's measly 30 bodyguards. Detractors of Yasuke's rise to become a samurai claim that the time Yasuke had known Nobunaga, which was about 1 year, was too short to ascend to the level of a samurai. They also point to the fact that Yasuke did not commit seppuku along with his daimyo, instead opting to be captured. The samurai culture instills great pride in the samurai men, and they argue that a true samurai would rather commit honorable seppuku other than allow themselves to be captured. Reference is also made to how he left the country rather than fight for the honor of his fallen daimyo, like Toyotomi Hideyoshi or Tokugawa Ieyasu. The two later unite Japan, with the latter establishing the Tokugawa shogunate that would last more than 3 centuries. Finally, they also make reference to the fact of how he was lowly regarded by Mitsuhide upon his capture. The latter stated that he was a beast who should not have been punished for the mistakes of his master, an attitude that would have been difficult to have against a fellow of equal status such as a samurai. But then again, perhaps all of it is true. and he was only surrounded by bigots who, despite his elevation, refused to regard him as anything other than a beast. What we however know is that for a time between 1579 and 1583, a dark-skinned African man landed in Japan and dined with all the three men who would later have the greatest impact on the country that we now know as Japan: Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu.